In the rugged highlands of Arizona Territory, a young Apache warrior named Alchesay was born in 1853. His tribe, the White Mountain Apache, had thrived on these lands for centuries, their lives deeply connected to the stark yet stunning terrain. Alchesay's existence unfolded amid sweeping changes as the growing United States introduced conflict and fragile alliances to Apache lands. As a youth, Alchesay mastered his tribe's traditions, tracking game across rugged landscapes, learning the desert's patterns, and building the extraordinary stamina that rendered the Apache such powerful fighters. He grew up hearing tales of defiance against Mexican armies and, increasingly, against American troops advancing into their homeland. While many Apache chiefs opted for staunch opposition to American expansion, Alchesay's journey would take a different course. In 1872, at age 19, he made a pivotal choice that defined his life and shaped his people's future. He joined the United States Army as a scout. The Apache Scouts formed a distinctive military group, working alongside American soldiers while preserving their cultural heritage and combat techniques. For Alchesay, enlisting was not an act of disloyalty but a practical decision in a transforming era. The Scouts offered critical expertise that American troops lacked, deep familiarity with the landscape, tracking skills that seemed almost otherworldly to outsiders, and insight into Apache warfare strategies. Alchesay swiftly stood out for his intellect, leadership, and steadfast commitment. He served under Lieutenant Charles B. Gatewood during the Apache Wars, a series of battles spanning the Southwest. American commanders soon acknowledged his remarkable talents, and Alchesay ascended to the role of chief scout. His greatest test arose during the campaign against Geronimo, a renowned Apache resistance figure. While Alchesay chose collaboration with American forces, Geronimo led bold raids across border areas. The U.S. Army launched extensive efforts to apprehend the elusive leader, placing Alchesay in the delicate role of pursuing his own kin. What drove this young Apache to align with forces many of his people viewed as adversaries? The answer reflects the nuanced responses of Native Americans to westward expansion. Alchesay believed partnership could ensure a future for his tribe, recognizing the immense military and demographic dominance of American settlers. Through his service, he aimed to secure better conditions for the White Mountain Apache. In 1877, Alchesay's outstanding contributions earned him a prestigious accolade. He journeyed to Washington, D.C., where President Ulysses S. Grant presented him with the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military award. Few Native Americans had received such distinction. The trip from his mountain homeland to the vibrant capital underscored the remarkable bridge Alchesay forged between two worlds. Standing before President Grant, Alchesay accepted his Medal of Honor with quiet pride. The citation lauded his courageous actions during campaigns against Apache groups in the winter of 1872-73. Yet, awards and ceremonies in far-off Washington held little weight compared to his people's well-being. Alchesay seized this moment to address the president directly about the challenges facing the Apache. His role as a scout persisted through turbulent phases of the Apache Wars. When General George Crook initiated his campaign against resistant Apache bands in 1872-73, Alchesay was among his most reliable scouts. Unlike many commanders of his era, Crook respected the Apache and valued the cultural insights of his scouts. He heeded Alchesay's counsel on tactics, terrain, and diplomacy. The bond between Alchesay and American military leaders highlights a lesser-known aspect of frontier history. While conflict and violence often dominate narratives, there were also instances of mutual respect and authentic collaboration. Alchesay earned the confidence of officers like Crook through proven skill and integrity. Alchesay's most critical contribution came during the final Geronimo campaign in 1886. As American forces tightened their pursuit of the last resistance fighters, Alchesay accompanied Lieutenant Charles B. Gatewood on a perilous mission to negotiate surrender. They entered Geronimo's camp bearing only a white flag. The encounter was charged with tension, given Geronimo's reputation for unpredictability and fierce resolve. Alchesay addressed Geronimo not as a foe but as a fellow Apache, articulating the futility of further resistance and advocating surrender as the sole path to survival. His words resonated because he remained rooted in Apache principles despite his army service. After intense discussions, Geronimo agreed to surrender, marking the end of the last major native resistance in the Southwest. With the Apache Wars concluded, Alchesay returned to the White Mountain Reservation, yet his dedication to his people endured. He transitioned from warrior to diplomat and tribal leader, recognizing that traditional Apache ways were irrevocably altered. He worked to help his community adapt while preserving their core identity. Reservation life posed new hardships. Government pledges were frequently broken, resources were limited, traditional hunting grounds were restricted, and religious practices faced suppression from officials and missionaries. Disease spread in cramped conditions. Amid these struggles, Alchesay emerged as a pillar of stability and advocacy. In 1887, he traveled again to Washington, this time meeting President Grover Cleveland to address reservation conditions. He spoke with striking candor, stating, "We wish to live like white men, but we need support." He sought tools, seeds, and education rather than charity. This practical mindset defined Alchesay's leadership, balancing cultural pride with adaptation to new realities. When the White Mountain Apache faced threats to their reservation lands, Alchesay organized opposition, collecting accounts of boundaries and historical land use and presenting compelling arguments to authorities. His efforts helped safeguard significant portions of ancestral Apache territory. As the 19th century transitioned to the 20th, Alchesay's role as a cultural intermediary grew even more essential. He pressed for equitable treatment from Indian agents who governed daily reservation life. When disputes emerged among Apache families, his guidance was sought and respected. The evolving world brought new technologies and social structures to the Southwest. Alchesay observed as railroads traversed Apache lands, mining operations expanded, and cattle ranches encroached on traditional areas. Rather than merely opposing these shifts, he explored ways for his people to engage in the new economy while protecting their fundamental values and remaining lands. His renown extended beyond the reservation. When Theodore Roosevelt visited Arizona in 1911, he specifically asked to meet Alchesay. The former scout traveled miles to greet the president, who welcomed him as a friend and fellow soldier. Roosevelt listened intently as Alchesay outlined reservation needs and conditions. Unlike many historical figures whose influence wanes, Alchesay's standing among both his tribe and American officials remained robust as he aged. His military service lent him credibility with government figures, while his commitment to Apache welfare solidified his tribal respect. He became a living link between the era of armed struggle and the realities of reservation life. In his later years, Alchesay witnessed dramatic changes. The Wild West of his youth grew increasingly modernized. Automobiles appeared on reservation roads. World War I unfolded, and some young Apache men followed his example by joining the American military. Through it all, he remained a tireless advocate for his people's rights and welfare. When Alchesay died in 1928 at roughly 75 years old, both Apache and American officials grieved his loss. His funeral blended traditional Apache rituals with military honors, reflecting the dual worlds he navigated throughout his extraordinary life. His legacy endured through his descendants and the many Apache whose lives benefited from his advocacy. What makes Alchesay's story captivating is not merely his military achievements but the wisdom with which he faced an untenable situation. Confronted by the overwhelming force of American expansion, he chose a path that preserved as much Apache autonomy and dignity as possible under dire circumstances. Rather than yielding to resentment over injustice, he worked diligently within the system to enhance conditions for his people. Today, the White Mountain Apache tribe continues to reside on their reservation in Arizona. Their cultural endurance owes much to leaders like Alchesay, who guided them through the tempest of conquest and forced assimilation. His life underscores that history is rarely a tale of simple heroes and villains. It is shaped by complex individuals making tough decisions in trying times. Alchesay's legacy encourages us to look beyond reductive narratives of the American West, revealing not only conflict but also collaboration, not only resistance but also adaptation. He embodied the resilience that enabled Native peoples to endure conquest and sustain their cultural traditions into the present. His Medal of Honor rests in a museum, a testament to his remarkable life.